Guys, welcome back to P&W Guitar. This is Mason here again, and today we're going to be setting up the ESP Horizon 3 because it needs some TLC. Let's get to it. Okay, cool, so we've got the guitar here. I've got all my stuff very loose. So first thing we got to do is take the strings off. These are locking tuners, so I will just loosen the threads on the back here. And here you can see cool, so we'll loosen them first a little. And because the locking tuners, you don't really thread through very much. When we loosen these and then we unlock them, the strings are basically going to fall right out. So okay, cool. So the strings are loose. The fretboard is in need of some serious attention. But the first thing I want to do before we do that is make sure that all of my parts here are tight. So I've got my little ratchet. I don't remember what size I need for this. So let's just put a couple on there and see which one catches. It's one of the smaller ones, I think. Yeah, this one. Cool. So I don't think any of these are really loose, but let's just give them a gentle tightening. They are a little bit loose, and we don't want anything coming loose, so we'll correct that now. There we go. Those all feel good. Other thing I'm going to do is remove the truss rod cover. If I can get it off, maybe I need my other teeny tiny screwdriver here. Because I have a suspicion that we may need to do a truss rod adjustment on this guy. Wow, that is really tight. Yeah, that's a flathead. All right, these are my two flatheads. I don't think this is gonna come off with this one being too big. All right, this is too big, so I'm gonna go get a smaller one. Give me a second. Cool, so we got a screwdriver that will actually fit here now. Perfect. Great. So we've got our cover. We're going to put our screw right there so we don't lose it. That is our truss rod right there. So if we need to adjust it, we can, but depending on the tension with the new strings, we may or may not need to. So what I'm going to do first is pull all the strings out of the back. And just our last one here. There we go. Where's that last little thin string? Now this one, just gonna pinch up so it doesn't scratch anything. That'll go for all of them, probably. Great. And our last one. Great, they're all free. Perfect, so now, what are we left with is a fairly dusty and kind of in need of some love guitar, so that's why we are going to take care of it today. Again, where did my ratchet go? I'm going to take this guy And just make sure that the bolt around the switch tip is also as tight as it needs to be. No, not that one. Let's see, I think this size. No, not quite. Is it an in-between? Yep, so that one is tight. We're good there. Alright, so I'm going to take just a regular cloth here and just give everything a quick dusting off. There we go, I think that's off enough. Cool. The next thing I want to do is pay really close attention to the fretboard, which feels pretty good, but there's definitely some smudges and stuff in there. So what I think I'm going to do is condition it, because I haven't done that in a while. So we've got Dunlop lemon oil, which is really nice for stuff like this. So what we're going to do is apply it on, let it sit for a little bit, and kind of soak in, and then we'll wipe off any excess. Okay, now the next step, since we have put the conditioner on the fretboard, the next thing I like to do is clean up the body and make it nice and shiny. We already dusted it off a little bit, so we've got our Ernie Ball microfiber cloth, and we've got our Fender guitar polish, which is good on poly finishes like this one. So I like to apply it to one half, so I've always been using this half for the spray, and then I've got the other side clear of that. That should be more than enough. Smells quite nice. So we'll just start kind of working in little circles, trying to get all of the smudges off. Great, so what we'll also do is turn it, and then we'll do a quick wipe down on the sides. And see, it's got kind of a nice contour here, bit of a belly cut, which is great. Wipe down the neck, and we'll also do the back here. Back of the neck, clean it up. Any spots that are a bit more gunked up than others, give a little bit of extra attention to. This is also a good time, if you want to come around, to make sure that our input jack over here is nice and tight as well. So the same screwdriver that we were using for the truss rod cover. Yep, it's nice and tight. We'll also make sure that our washer there is equally as tight, which it is. That's great news. Cool, so we'll turn this back over, and it's not completely smudge proof, but it's very close, which is what we're looking for. And now the lemon oil's been sitting on the fretboard pretty well. I'm just going to kind of fill in some of the spots that it didn't touch with the brush with my finger, just to make sure it's got a nice even coating and it's getting to all the wood. So this is going to stop our fretboard from cracking if it gets too dry, which hopefully it shouldn't be. And from the look of it, it seems to be pretty good. Cool, I'll wipe that off. What I'm also going to do is give the nut a quick wipe down, which seems to be okay. And if you have a pencil, These always have graphite in them, which is a really good thing to put in your nut slots so that the strings don't slip. Well, it says locking tuners anyways, but a little bit of graphite goes a long way into helping your strings stay where they need to be. 2, 3, 4, 5, last one. Right there. And then you can also do the same thing on the bridge, which I seem to have lost. Where did that go? When you have tail pieces like this is a Godo, they can fall off. So what you want to do is do the same thing here where the strings are going to come across. We'll take the pencil, rub a little bit of graphite into those slots, and when we put the strings on, that will help them not slip and will help with our tuning. So we'll put that back where we found it. Looks good. Let's see. Actually, I almost put that on backwards. But anyways, cool. So now we're going to take this cloth. We'll flip it to the side we didn't use to clean all the dirt off. And we're just going to wipe the excess gently off of the fretboard. So we'll do that now. So now if you want to get a good shot there, frets look a lot nicer. They appear a little bit darker. I can see a few spots where obviously I play quite a bit around here. There's a little bit more wear in the fretboard there than other spaces, but otherwise that's looking pretty good. So now what we're going to do is throw some new strings on. So I've got my 3-pack of my D'Addario. These are the 10 to 46s. I originally had, I think, 11 to 52s on here, something like that. So that's going to change the neck a little bit. It's going to have a different amount of pressure on it, which is okay. So we'll get these strings open. I'll pop the bridge off here for a second so it doesn't fall off when we're actually uncoiling these. And we've got here, D'Addario is very nice. They give you a little breakdown of which colors go to which strings. Now for everybody else that would be very useful, but I'm a little bit colorblind, so I just kind of look at how thick they are. So they separate them as your 2 thinnest strings, your E and B. Excuse me. This is your middle strings, your G and D, and then this is your A and E here. So we'll unwind these, hopefully not hitting ourselves in the face. There we go. We want to try and be careful not to bend them at all, so I like to lay them across my lap. And then we'll turn the guitar, making sure you're putting the right string in the right place, top to bottom, thread that through. We've got all of our strings in. I'm going to replace the bridge back here. And then this is my favorite part with the locking tuners that we have. We're going to come back over this way. Let's see, I'll adjust the light just a touch there. So, with these tuning pegs, you kind of want them to go, generally speaking, you want them to be facing straight down the neck for an even string pull. We will line these up, Get them through the posts and through the nut. And then with these, what's great is you can then lock them down, which is the easiest part of having a guitar with locking tuners. So you bring your string in, make sure it's sitting correctly in the nut and in the bridge, and then once again tighten that. And you'll actually, it's very subtle, but you'll actually see once it's locked, the string will start to bend just a tiny bit because of the pressure being put on it by the knife edges that are inside of the locking mechanisms. And you don't want to twist it too hard, but enough that it's going to stay in place. Now what we want to do, these are all nice and loose, is you want to turn the tuning pegs so that we've got basically like a fish hook, if you want to think about it that way, with the locking tuners. So you want your string to go in the post, back towards the neck, not completely, but a curved angle, right about like that there. So if you can see that angle, it's an acute triangle. And we want that for all of these. That's going to make sure that they are kind of installed correctly. That's going to put pressure on them. So we're not tuning them yet. We're just making sure that they are locked into place. And I do have my power peg winder here, which is completely not necessary for this kind of situation when you're using locking tuners. But if we were using more standard style, maybe Strat or Les Paul tuners that didn't have a locking mechanism on them, then you know that you have to twist the strings around the post several times, and it's just much nicer to have. Like, I like to give them a twist, and you can kind of hear them come up to some pitch. And then last, our little thin E string. And this is the part that makes every guitar player's butthole pucker, because we're all terrified of breaking a string. And if they're going to snap, this is going to be the time that they're going to do it. So, definitely not in tune, but we've got them on there. So what I'm going to do now, if I can find, got my headstock tuner. Normally you'd want to plug something in, but I don't have a floor tuner right now, so we'll have to make do with this. So we've got our tuner there is reading D sharp. We need to get it up to E. B's dead on. Perfect. Now, usually I'd use something like this. This is the Diodario string cutter. It's also got a winder on the side, but What I found with these guys, it's a really easy way to get the strings to kind of snap off the excess, is to literally take it, if you can get it. Now the E is kind of stuck in there a little bit. Yeah. Alright, so you take your string, the thinner ones are actually harder to do it with, and you just kind of wheel it around, and eventually, because the metal is fairly thin, relatively speaking, it should break. And maybe this is a testament to how good D'Addario's strings are. It doesn't want to break. So we'll kind of try that with the B. And you know what, if it doesn't end up going, then we'll take the easy way out and we'll just go through and snip them. Which is what I was going to do. See, I was trying to show you guys something cool, and it didn't want to cooperate. Here, let's try. Maybe the G will want to do it. Sometimes if you pull it back around, this is generally the case, it'll just snap off. Well, D'Addario, kudos to you. Your strings are way too strong for that. But hey, that's okay. So we'll get that nice and close. Snip off the excess. Doesn't hurt to have a little bit at the end. That's going to help you when you go to take them off. And we'll cut this last one as close as we can get it. We've got all of our spare string ends here, which you're going to want to be fairly careful with. I'll put those there for now. My old strings are actually on the floor because I'm an irresponsible person, apparently. But alright, so this is in tune for now. And what we're really going to want to do is put our tuner back on. And we're going to want to check the intonation and make sure that the strings are in tune at the 12th fret as well as the open strings. So I'm going to fret the 12th fret. And you can see if this one's perfectly in tune. So let's see. Let's let it go back down. This is you gotta make sure this is perfectly in tune on the open string before you do this. Fret it at the 12th. Cool, that matches, looks like. Now the thing is, these strings haven't been stretched out first, so actually what we might want to do is you take them and you just abuse them. I like to hold it on the 1st fret and you just stretch them up all the way. And what this is going to do is get the string used to being stretched so that when you are playing and you're bending and doing all the things you're going to do, it's going to keep it in tune. So you might need to do this. Sometimes I'll give it a stretch, kind of both directions, but up seems to be kind of the magic way. So get underneath it all the way. And it looks almost violent the way that you pull it up. Or alternatively, just let your kid play with it, because they're going to end up doing this exact same thing anyway. So if you've got a kid around or a younger sibling, just let them screw around with the strings, and I'm sure that they will effectively do the same thing. There we go. Great, so we'll want to retune these because they're going to go flat after doing that. Oh, actually, if anything, this one went sharp, it looks like, which is pretty funny. D sharp, up to E. And this is always the part with the new guitar, once you change the strings, getting it to stay in tune, even when it's a well-made guitar. New strings are finicky. They're not used to being on an instrument with some tension on them yet. They have been in a package for God knows how long. All coiled up and cozy, and now we need to get them used to being put to work. And it turns out the E is great. So now, got our E. And anybody who's done their strings before themselves will know, generally speaking, you're going to have to go through and fine-tune these at least a few times. And at some point all these will line up and they will all be in tune. But what you're going to see is because the tension is constantly changing on the neck, and these are a new gauge of string as well, that it's going to want to settle in, which always takes a little bit of time. So patience is key on this one. There we go, cool. So while we're waiting for these to settle in and kind of get comfy, this is in tune, but what we're going to want to do is check the action of the strings. So what we're going to do here is, let me move my screwdriver here. So we're going to put our capo on the first fret right here, and we're going to press down where, basically on the fret that kind of the neck and the body meet. So right here, that appears to be about the 17th or the, let me see, 15th, 17th, the 19th fret on this guitar. And then I don't have any feeler gauges, which is what you would normally use for this, but I do have an M&M gift card. So we'll use that. And we should be able to get this through at around the 5th fret without it having too much friction. So as you can see there, that is touching quite a bit all the way down. Now the reason I'm using this is because it's about a 1/16 of an inch thick. And as you can see, that probably means, more than likely, while it sounds good, that we might have, and I can hear it, just the tiniest bit of fret buzz really low down here on the neck. So when you've got the first fret pressed down, you've got your 19th fret in this case pressed down, there should be just the tiniest bit of a gap here. You should have a little bit of a gap there. The string shouldn't be touching the fret, but in this case it is, meaning that we need to do the tiniest bit of a neck adjustment, which is why we took off the truss rod cover before. So I have a number of hex wrenches or Allen keys or whatever you want to call them here, and I'm not entirely sure which size they tend to use for the ESP ones, but my guess is that they're around a 5. So we'll try a 5 hex wrench in there and see if that fits. Now that might be a little bit too big actually. Yeah, looks like that's going to be about the right size. And basically what's happening here is when we've got these two pressed down, the neck, it is always a bit of a bow. And what's happening with this one, because it's touching right here, it means that we need to alleviate some of that. So we actually need more space underneath the string. So what we're going to do is we're going to got our hex wrench key in here, and we're going to turn it about a quarter turn, like that much. There we go. So we turned it about a quarter of a way, and that should add a little bit of extra space in here. So what we're going to do is do that same test that we did again. Cool. So we've got the 19th fret pressed down again, and we will put that in between the fret and the string. That is better. It's still touching, so we're probably going to want to go back. Oh, so that one didn't quite turn as much as we would have wanted, so I'm going to try and get this at an angle that I can hopefully get a bit more of a turn out of it. There we go. So we've got the pressure on there again. And once again, generally you want to do this in playing position so that there's no extra gravitational forces on the string. Sounds silly, but it is true. And you should be able to basically press and get a little bit of movement there. So this one still appears to be touching a little bit. I'm wondering if maybe the truss rod size that I'm using isn't catching quite as much as I'd like. So let me try this one. Yep, there we go. I definitely felt it move that time, so that's good news. Well, and then we'll go through and check this again, and this is just kind of a case of doing this over and over again until we get the kind of separation we're looking for, right around the middle. And yeah, so right around our fifth it is catching a little bit, but I think that neck angle is going to be a bit better now. Yeah, and what you can do is take a quick look underneath. You should be able to see just a little bit of space underneath all of the strings. And especially when you get lower on the neck here, you want to see that there's some play. And it should be just the teeniest bit on the first fret, which there is, which means we did a good job. So, now that that is done, and this is more of a full setup video. I know this is kind of, we're approaching this like a restringing video, but really we're kind of doing a little bit more than that. Now what we can do is put our truss rod cover back on. So we'll just slide that into place with maybe just a little bit of help from a little screwdriver or something. So we want to just line up the hole so that we can put our screw back in. Just going to be right there. And we will get our screw that we definitely did not lose. Grab our screwdriver, get that back into place. Until it's just tight enough. Since we've got the screwdriver out too, I have locking strap locks on this, but the strap locks can't lock if we don't lock the edges and the pins, so we'll try and make sure that those are tight too, which they are. Perfect. And then the only other thing that I really want to do is just double check that our intonation is as good as we think it is. So now that we've adjusted the neck, once again we'll have to retune a little bit, but this is sitting in tune much better than it was. And my trick is always, if the string goes sharp or flat, generally if it goes sharp, you want to tune down and then back up to the place that you're trying to get to. And that seems to get it back kind of where you want it. And it'll sit a bit nicer. Now you're seeing all of these are sitting in tune quite nicely. Sounds good. We don't have any buzz, we don't have anything rubbing against anything. And then what I will do is, now that I know these are all in tune, I'll throw a capo on the 12th fret, and we will measure there. So now you can see if I play the open E, it's perfectly in tune, but if I play with the capo on there, it is a little bit sharp. It's about half a cent. I'm not too concerned about that. The A is down a bit. So what we can do for something like that, if you come back around on this side, over here, you've got more screws. And what you can do is adjust these in order to change the tuning there. Now getting this screwdriver in there might be a little bit tricky. So what I might do is with my flathead just try to adjust that. and that one could use just a teeny bit of a turn. And you can play the harmonics on the 12th fret. And you can see all those are in tune, meaning that our guitar is now as intonated as they can get. No stringed instrument is perfect intonation, but this is as good as we're going to get with this one. And that is it. That is our whole setup. We've got our intonation done. We've got our neck adjusted. We've got the strings back on. We cleaned everything up. And oh, one last thing that I did mention I wanted to do before was maybe adjust this neck pickup, right? So if we want to do that, reason being, if you look at it, and this is something a lot of metal guys do, they put that neck pickup really, really low down. But the problem with that is it cut out a lot of the frequency response that we were getting from the pickup, and I don't like the sound of it. So these are going to be what you use to adjust the height of your pickup. So if we just turn this ever so slightly, you can actually see the pickup moving. So I'm going to give that about a half a turn on both. Let's see where that's sitting. That is a little bit higher, and I think, generally speaking, if you press your last fret down, you want that pickup to be about, so as you can see this one here, this is about the right distance, and I'm not exactly sure what the measurement would be, but it's about, not quite a pinky finger. This one seems to be a little bit better now, so I'm just going to give it maybe one more turn, get it a little bit higher. Great, that looks good to me, and we will test that when we do our comparison video, which we're going to be doing next. That is the setup process. If you guys have any feedback for me, let me know how you guys do your setups. What do you think? How did it turn out? We'll do a playing test afterwards to show you what it sounds like now, and thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Mason, and I'll catch you.